Hey everyone, welcome to the Americana Station podcast. I am one of your hosts, Will Payne Harrison, and today on the podcast we have David Quinn. You can probably hear the coffee in the background. I just started that. We're going to get into this podcast today. I'm excited for you to hear about David and his amazing new album. Big news, we were in the bout.com for 11 podcasts that Americana and country artists need to listen to in 2022. And we were featured in there with Cocaine and Rhinestone, Hippies and Cowboys podcast, Walking the Floor. So I'm super excited because I love all those podcasts. And it was super cool to be able to be a part of that, to be one of those 11 podcasts that you need to listen to. If you're new here because of that, welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. And I hope you enjoy listening to this info about David Quinn. So I have to be honest here. I'm not really good at the Patreon thing, but I did set one up today, and I'm going to throw this little pitch at you. We need your help. If you are a longtime Americana Station listener, if you enjoy the show, I would love for you to go and give one of the tiers. We just started off with 3 tiers, $5, $10, and $20. You can give more if you would like. And once we hit that sweet spot where we're making enough money to really carry this thing, we'll actually add a lot more content. Right now, you know, we're all having to work extra jobs and do other things, and it's hard to make time for this, you know, because honestly, you know, it takes about 2-3 hours of prep. You know, you're doing about an hour and a half to 2 hours for the actual interview, and then I have to come in and edit all these, which is another few hours. So we're looking at like 8 hours an episode, and I think a lot of people don't realize all the work that goes into that. Not to mention podcast hosting. I just had to buy a new laptop because my old one crapped the bed. You know, there's also like the audio interfaces, the microphones. There's a lot of expenses involved with this that people I don't think realize, and we need your help. We really do, and to keep this being continuous, and especially since we've got this bump from the boot, I've been getting the increase in people that want to be on the podcast has really skyrocketed, and I want to have them. Some of them are amazing. Well, they're all amazing, but some of them are ones I really have looked forward to interviewing, and we would like to continue to do this, but at the free volunteer level, there's only so much time that we can give. So if you would like to see the podcast take off and do more video content, extra podcasts, you know, we're looking to try to go to Americana Fest and interview some of the people that are on the festival. So like, if you would like to see more content and you would like to see us really thrive, I would urge you to please visit our Patreon. I think it's patreon.com/Americana Station. That would be super appreciated. And I would love to be able to pay Emily in India as well, because right now they're doing it out of the joy of their heart, which I totally appreciate. But it is getting to that point where we need to start making money to move forward and do more things, take out ads. There's just so much that we could do that we aren't currently doing. And if you really enjoy the podcast and you'd like to see it grow, then please visit our Patreon and consider being a patron. One other thing I wanted to mention in news is that India Ramey's about to be, she's probably by this point featured on WMOT, and they're actually using my picture that I took of her when she performed at D's a few weeks back for Ryan Sinclair's EP release. So make sure you visit WMOT.org and look for that India Ramey feature with yours truly as the photographer on that. That's super cool. Thanks, India, for choosing my photo. That's really an honor. Okay, so we're going to get into it now with David. Hey everyone, welcome to Americana Station podcast. Today on the podcast I have David Quinn. Super excited to have him. First thing I want to mention is not only is your new album like lined up with an amazing lineup of players, but you also got to have Fats Kaplan play some fiddle on your record. and he played on my last record. He's such an amazing musician and awesome dude. That's super cool.
Yeah, he is. He's incredible. I hadn't really put, actually I hadn't put any like fiddle, and some other things on either of my last couple records. And I knew I wanted it for this one. So I had asked around, I think I had asked Kelsey Walden, and she recommended Fats. And then I asked my buddy Micah, who plays keys on the record.
Micah, what's his last name?
Micah Hulsher. I'm not exactly sure how to say it. He plays with Margot Price. He's played with everyone.
Oh, okay. Okay. I know a different keys player named Micah. Sorry.
Sure. It might be. I wonder if it's the same one.
I'm gonna have to look him up.
Yeah, it's Hulscher, I believe. And it's just funny. They had both recommended Fats. So he came so highly recommended to me. And just having him in the room was so special. I mean, we really kind of got along pretty well. You know, and it really helped. It was kind of cool because he played a couple instruments on the record. And then, you know, there's a couple tunes that he's not on either. And it was kind of cool because he was able to sit back and kind of watch a little bit. And he would, you know, he'd even give us ideas. It's like, hey, you know, I think you guys should try this. And it was just kind of cool to, you know, for me, this was a self-produced record. So,
yeah.
You know, you don't usually get that luxury. So it was kind of cool to whether he had already tracked his part or maybe he wasn't on this song. He's hanging out and then saying, you know, punching into the live room saying, hey, why don't we try this? And you know, just so cool to hear ideas from Fats. I mean, he's such a talented guy. So
he played theremin on a track on my record. So that was the first. Yeah. For him and me.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. I would love to hear that. He's a magician as well, is what I hear. Yeah,
he's actually a magician, not just a magician musician. Like he actually is literally right. Like he'll do the spot at 5 Spot with his wife, Christy, and they'll play songs and then he'll do a magic act. It's pretty cool.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize he mixes them both. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah. They'll play a couple of songs and then he'll do like a stint of like a bunch of magic tricks and they'll go back and play some more songs.
That's great. Yeah. He's a fascinating guy. Really glad I got to get to know him and have him on this record. So,
and that's only the tip of the iceberg. Cause you also have, is it Lore from Driving and Crying?
Yeah. I think it's Lauer. I think that's what he goes by. Yeah. I'm not totally sure, but yeah, people call him Little Joe a lot. That was also great. I mean, he's one of my favorite players, specifically on slide too. He's just so good. He played on my last record on some songs too, so it was kind of cool. You know, we keep in touch pretty often, and I just love having him come in. He always takes things to another level, and you know, I usually know what tracks I want him on to, and he'll just come in and you know, just make everything sound so good. He's just such a talented player as well.
Yeah. And then you had Brett on pedal steel. He's incredible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then Jamie T. Davis from Margot Price, Miles Miller from Sturgill Simpson. You didn't slack on musicians.
Yeah. It's kind of nice. You know, I've been able to get to know a lot of these folks just from my last couple of records. And me and Jamie specifically, we keep in touch pretty often. You know, I even would run by some of these songs before, you know, we got in the studio with him, and you know, he always has been a good friend to me and gives me advice and ideas for songs and things like that. So, you know, I kind of knew I wanted all those guys, but Miles, the drummer, was a bit of a surprise because I had originally went down in last February to track this record. I had everything booked, all the people booked, and I was using Dylan, who played on my last record, who also plays with Margot Price. And I got there the day that the snow and ice storm started. I don't know if you remember all of that.
Last year? 2 years ago? The one that lasted like 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, and they hit Texas too. I think that's when Texas closed. I think that was a year ago, right?
I think it's hard to with COVID.
Wait, yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe it was 2 ago. Anyways, so it was crazy. I mean, I pulled into town all ready to hit the studio the next day, started snowing, turned to ice. everyone's texting me, calling me, and then like, hey, I think we're gonna have to push for a day. We pushed for a day, everything got worse. We pushed for another day, and then it was like, hey, if we have to push one more day, we can't do this, because people were in there like a certain amount of days later, so we weren't able to push it all. And sure enough, we had to push it, so we just had to cancel. So that was it's just a crazy experience. I pretty much drove to Nashville and then was like locked in a room for 4 days. So I said, I'm not leaving Nashville till I reschedule this. And it was a bit of a challenge. But the only time I could get folks in there within the next couple of months was the dates that I went back, which was like a month later. And everyone could do it but Dylan, the drummer, which is unfortunate because I love Dylan's playing. So somebody had recommended Miles to me, and Miles has always been one of my favorite players. And he was super friendly and accommodating and was happy to do it. So that's how Miles ended up on there. He was kind of the surprise add last minute, but then once he was there, it fit right in, and I think it worked perfectly for this record. He ended up singing some harmonies too, and it all worked out for the best, I think. So
did you track everything live?
So a lot of not everything, no. A lot of like bass, drums, rhythm guitar, acoustic, like we'd get a good take of that and then kind of go back and do like overdub some leads. And I redid vocals and things like that. But the basis of the track was live. So
nice. Yeah. So what was like, I just self-produced my own record. I just finished mastering it myself actually yesterday. And
oh, cool.
What was so I can relate to producing your own record. It is kind of stressful.
Right.
What was that process like for you? Did you like kind of map out like pre-production ahead of time? You probably did all the demos and all that stuff, send it out to everybody. And
yeah, I really did the self-produced thing out of like budget and just kind of convenience for this one. So I grew up playing drums. I played drums before I played guitar or anything like that, or even wrote for that matter. So, when I come up with a lot of the songs, I usually know pretty much how the drums are going to sound. I write a lot of the lead like guitar melodies that I can't play because I'm not quite too much of a guitar player, but I'll just write the melody and I hum it into my demos. So my demos are something to be, could use some work, but like the parts are there, right? So I pretty much know what I wanted things to be beginning to, like each song beginning to end. I kind of knew what I wanted that to sound like. I'm really not a technical person, but my engineer Mike, who did this, he did my last record as well, and he's also a friend of mine. So he really kind of understands, I think, what I'm going for. So it's cool. I'll send him some records beforehand, or like give him a general idea of what I'm looking for, and as I say, it was self-produced, but there was plenty of creative input by people, and they would take my ideas and make them much better. So yeah, I mean, I did a lot of kind of pre-production stuff, but that was kind of to the extent of it. I demoed, kind of knew what I wanted, and then we did the rest kind of in the room there.
Yeah, I think most of my production style is just saying no instead of like
right.
Like let them do their thing, and when it's not, and no, that's not it. But otherwise, like like yeah, I like what you did. Do one more take, but do like something a little bit different or something like that. I'm definitely not like a over the top like like micromanager of every part. I think it breathes a better record when you let the person just be who they are in there. Yeah, and it's kind of nice to be surprised too. I think since I can kind of play drums, kind of play guitar, and I write the song, so I kind of have this idea like, oh yeah, this is how it's going to sound. It's kind of nice to be surprised in there when somebody says, well, hey, why don't we do this? Or I wrote like the title track Country Fresh. I wrote that melody to be a guitar melody. Mm-hmm. And then Brett, I think it was Brett or Fats, one of them said, hey, why don't you try it on steel? And then we did on steel, and it was like, oh yeah, this sounds great. Let's do that. So little things like that, I think I really, really started to realize it's nice to be surprised. And that was the other piece again about having Fats. It was kind of cool to
have him a couple times just be able to sit back and throw out ideas, and he was more than willing to, which I think was really great, because I think that's the downside of doing your own record. You're in the live room, you can't really hear what you'd hear if you were sitting away listening,
Right. Yeah, and for any excuse me, for anyone listening that doesn't know, Fats played with John Prine. He played with Jack White. I think he's played with some other people too that I'm just not.
Yeah, he has. He's played with a bunch. I know he's on like the Hayes Carl record. He's on a bunch of good stuff. Sure.
Yeah. So he's like insane, and just like one of those like top notch musicians where like I think I knew he was good, but then when he gets in the studio, just like his brain is like on fire. It's awesome. It's super awesome.
Yeah.
And yeah, he was incredible. That must have been an awesome experience for you. And going back to the name of your record, segueing a little bit, you were talking about the title track, Country Fresh. That came from something you found actually in the Sound Emporium.
Yeah. Yeah. So since I mentioned before, I made my last record there a couple of years ago now. And we were tracking, we were listening back to something, and like way in the back of the room under a bunch of stuff. I have no idea how I found it. I mean, I truly looked like it hadn't been picked up in 50 years. I asked my engineer buddy too. He's like, dude, I've worked here for a long time. No one's ever mentioned that. He's like, I don't think it's been seen. So it's an ashtray, and it said Country Fresh on it. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. The font was kind of cool. It was like yellowy 70s with like this white writing. And it just stuck with me. And I remember loving it at that point. So I was started right away. I started just saying that Country Fresh, like, if I liked something or if somebody played a cool lick or even, and then, so it started more musically, like something that I liked musically, but then it got to like anything, like if the biscuits were good at breakfast, that was Country Fresh. So we, I started using it with my buddies and my players, and it just stuck. So I had it in my head for so long. And then when I got out here to Indiana, I was kind of living this like dream life in this weird way. I was working with horses and being outside and just kind of having this sort of kind of falling back in love with the Midwest and spending a lot of time outside. So I was just writing a song about how I've been living, which became Country Fresh. And it just hit. I'm like, well, this has to be the chorus somehow. Country Fresh needs to be in there. And then that song is kind of pretty representative of what the whole record is. So I had to name the record Country Fresh. So we're just, I'm just rolling with it. I still use it all the time. So.
I just realized you said Illinois. I didn't realize you're from like the Chicago area. You're the second Chicago person in a row I've interviewed. I just did Bronte Fall. I'm not sure if you're familiar with her.
I've heard her name before. Yeah. Oh, that's
Terry.
Cool.
Yeah. So but you moved to Indiana, and you said before we started, you said it was kind of on the border of Michigan and Indiana.
Yeah. I'm right in Indiana still, but I'm pretty close to Michigan border. I'm not that far from the Illinois border either. I still get into Chicago for rehearsals and stuff. I grew up like 40, 50 miles west of the city, so I'm not really a city person. But I still get into the city now to like rehearse and everything. But very proud of the Midwest, proud to be from Illinois. And, I love it out here in Indiana too. But just, in general, the Midwest is definitely, I think, has shaped a lot of like how my music sounds, specifically this newest record. So
yeah. So are you a Cubs or a Sox fan? That's the real question.
That is the question. I'm a Sox fan. I grew up a Sox fan.
Like it. All right.
I know the
Frank
Sox
Thomas.
fans. Yeah. Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
Thomas, Ventura, all the greats. The Sox fans are always a little more rowdy,
Yeah.
The Cubs fans sometimes can be a little more clean cut. So I grew up a Sox fan, and I'm not someone who hates the other side, though. I've been to plenty of Cubs games, to be honest with you. I have some family who works for the Cubs as well. So, it is what it is, but
no
Sox
hate,
fan for sure.
Yeah. I didn't know that you had to like hate one of the teams until the first time I went to Chicago. Cause I grew up on the Sox, but I was always a Cubs
Mhm.
fan too. Like, yeah, I like them both. No, you can't like them both. You have to choose one.
Right. Right. Yeah. Unfortunately, that's just how it goes. But
So, you kind of mentioned, that you're the whole Midwest thing has definitely influenced this album, but how specifically has it maybe influenced the writing in the last, you've been there, what, 2 years?
yeah. Yeah. 2 years. Yeah. I mean, I think, it kind of like re-energized me. Because again, like I mentioned before, I've never really been a city person. I didn't grow up in the city. I was just there because I was getting a lot of gigs there.
Yeah.
So I was only there for a couple of years. But getting back, being able to sort of be outside and like really be in like the Midwest, it just totally was refreshing for me. I mean, it was everything I needed. While I understand and am sensitive to a lot of people had a lot of like the last couple of years have been tough on people. I had opportunity to sort of just like, I was a little tucked away from it. When I turn on my TV or go into town, I would be reminded, but, like being on a ranch, not much has changed. When you're on a horse in a big field, you're not really reminded of COVID or anything going on.
Yeah.
And then even being out here, we're on a small little lake. So, it was just like so freeing to get away from everything. I went through such a creative, I still feel like I am. I mean, I'm still writing so much. I wrote that whole record right here and kind of in my room here. I have a couch and, I wake up early and I like to write in the morning. And it really allowed me to sort of, I think write about some things that I love as opposed to, there's definitely some heartache on this record for sure. That's always going to be there for me. But, a lot of my songs are about leaving somewhere. And this record, like there's so many songs about just all the stuff I love, like Cornbread and Chili, Country Fresh. That's just everything I love, as opposed to a lot of my songs on my last record were all about leaving, not being content and things like that. And this record is just like, I love it here. I love food. I love music. I love all these things. So, I don't know. It really brought a new perspective for me that I haven't been able to really hone in on until recently.
Man, that's awesome. Yeah. I know the whole heartbreak thing, is normally, yeah, on the records for me too, but it's same thing. The one that I just finished, is mostly like, well, there's a couple of like sad songs, but they're not actually about me. They're just,
Right.
either written about a friend or,
Sure.
something like that. But yeah, the sad songs aren't actually about me. So it doesn't feel like a sad album. I don't know.
Right,
it's weird.
right.
It's weird to do that, to not have a sad album.
It is. Yeah. And it's funny. The couple of sad ones on mine are, well, the one, two serious, more really sad ones were not old, but written a little bit before I left. So, which kind of makes sense too. I mean, It's funny. There's like a handful of tunes I wrote before I left. And then most of the more sort of content ones are songs I wrote like out here, while I'm just kind of living the way the way that I talk about in a lot of those songs. So, it was interesting to try to find that mix, but, I did my best and I hope it matched, kind of works for everyone the way it works for me. But, yeah, it's always a tricky line to walk, putting songs together on a record,
Yeah, and I see that in your bio about the cornbread and chili, kind of like how Guy Clark likes to write about food. You mentioned,
yeah,
that's another one that's hard to toe that line of like, writing a good song about food is not easy.
Right.
That must have been a challenge.
Right, and that's why the whole song's not about food because I couldn't do it. I tried, but I had to add in some of the other stuff I love, which I was happy to. I mean, I kind of blend all my favorite things are food, music, horses, all that kind of stuff. So it freed it up a little bit when I was like, well, the whole song doesn't have to be about food.
I mean, Texas cooking's not all about,
right.
I mean, the chorus is, but.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, but I've wanted to do that for a long time and never been able to do it until this one. And I was really happy with the way it turned out. I remember my direction for that one. We like listened to the demo and then I was like, I just don't want it to be cheesy, but I also want like a band on it. Like I wanted full instrumentation or whatever. And that was it. And everyone's like, okay. And then we went in and it came out the way it did. So I was pretty happy with it.
That's awesome. There's like war on Twitter over chili. Are you team beans or team no beans?
I always hear about this.
Especially in Texas. They're like anti-beans in Texas, apparently.
That's what I hear. I'm not going to lie. I kind of grew up with beans in my chili, and I'm
Same.
not against it. Oh, you too?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But, I don't discriminate. I'm good with either.
I get it. I'm from Louisiana. If you put tomatoes in your gumbo, I'm not going to eat it. So I understand.
Right.
But yeah, it seems weird to me because I grew up with beans in my chili. So
yeah, people get passionate about that. I know. I've had people ask me too. I think I'm going to do like I have like my homemade cornbread recipe that my mom makes, and I'm going to put together my chili recipe, and I'm going to do something with those two and put them out, whether it's just like thank you cards or something that comes with merch. And I've had people ask too, like, well, do you put beans in your chili? And I'm like, oh gosh, here we go.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I don't know. I got to play it. I got to figure that one out.
You just gotta choose the side and go with it. I think beans are great. They should be in chili.
I agree.
I don't know about the noodles. I don't know if you do noodles in Indiana. I know in like Ohio and stuff in Cincinnati, they got the whole noodle thing going.
Yeah. Growing up, my mom used to do it. I don't do it now that I'm older for some reason, but growing up, I always did.
Yeah. My dad put rice in his chili and that's just weird to me.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Right. Probably doesn't taste too bad though. Just kind of weird though.
Yeah. It just kind of makes it like a lot thicker, I guess. But
right.
Yeah. So, when you're writing, is it like do you ever collaborate or is it just like I'm going to do this alone thing? And is it like something that you kind of chip away at and sit with, or is it something that just like when you're inspired, you kind of pick up the pen?
Yeah. A little bit of all of that, I guess.
Yeah.
I really like to write in the morning. I always feel really creative in the morning. Which is funny because a lot of my favorite songwriters, I always hear that they write like all through the night, and I've just never been like that. I get more creative when I write when I wake up. So I walk a fine line between, I think the best kind of stuff comes when it just shows up and you kind of just catch it, right, and jot it down. But at the same time, I've been trying to, especially since I moved out here, to be a little bit more diligent and like sitting down every day and just trying to write for 20 minutes. Because those are the ones I think that maybe you don't write the best song, but you come up with a really good chorus or point of view or whatever it might be that then you add in when the magic kind of hits. But most of the songs on this record were ones that came pretty quickly for me, that I sit down and kind of write. I go back and revise a little bit, but I'm certainly not a perfectionist, and I'm not somebody who sits on a song for years and years or even months and months. I like to kind of get it out and move on. And I'll just like track it on my phone or just a quick demo to have it. And then, maybe in the studio or before I go to the studio, I'll revise a little bit. But I kind of just like to get it out and move on.
Yeah, that makes sense. My best songs are probably the ones that were 20 minutes to write.
Right.
But
right.
I've gotten into the revising more in the last 2-3 years. Mm-hmm. That's new for me. I used to just write it and that was the song.
Right.
I've seen a lot of not only joy, but also just like I'm writing better songs by revising. And it kind of hit me when I had a friend kind of help me with a few lines on a song that I felt like was really good, but had a few weak lines. And then the whole thing ended up being like strong, in my opinion, after I kind of had someone help me with revising it. And I was just like, man, I should start doing this more often. And it really has helped my writing so much, because sometimes you throw like just a throwaway line in there because you just want to get done with that verse. Right. The cursed second verse, and then it just it's never satisfying. So sometimes it's good to go back, I think, but that's new for me. Yeah. I didn't used to do that.
Well, it's good to hear. A lot of my favorite writers do the same thing too. They talk about how important that is. So it's something I do think about, and I'm sure it's probably the next step, right? To start being like, okay, let's go back and kind of, do things that way. And even like co-writes, I haven't really done much. Or like you said, even just letting someone take a look and maybe be like, hey, well, what about this line? It's something I'm certainly open to. And is the more I've been around other songwriters, I've kind of been, hinting at the idea. Or I even asked my friend recently, like, hey, I'm kind of working on some stuff, like, would you mind taking a look? I used to never do that. So, I'm definitely growing in that way and open to trying that kind of stuff. So I'm kind of looking forward to seeing, where some of the new stuff goes, with maybe a different process. So
here in Nashville, they have a few different ones. And I know Guy Clark used to do one, but the one that I was going to is called the Song Salon, where it's just a songwriter group where you share a new song and then everyone critiques it. And it's such really a cool concept because you have like a bunch of people you really respect telling you if your song sucks, but it's kind of hard when you just wrote it. And it always, when you just wrote it, it's the best thing ever, no matter how shitty it actually is. So yeah, sometimes, I would go there with a song that I'm just like, and they're like, dude, that's a line from a Ryan Adams song. And you're like, shit, you're right.
Oh, that's funny. Gosh, that's gotta be really useful, but also tough.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Time. It can be brutal if you're really like holding on to that song.
Right. Which you almost always are right in the beginning too, this is the song.
Yeah. But those are fun. Do you come to Nashville often besides just recording?
Yeah, I get there pretty often. I was actually just there 2 weeks ago. I played the 5 spot. I think on
$2 Tuesday,
25th. No, it was a Saturday night. I did with my friend Mallory Eagle, and then Lily May played.
Yeah, I know Mallory.
Headline. Yeah, she's great. She's so talented. And then I did Memphis Sunday and came back and did Whiskey Jam on Monday. So
nice.
Yeah. So it was fun. Yeah. So I was just around, but yeah, I get there fairly often now. I have a lot of good friends out there. So yeah, I get there pretty often nowadays, which I've been liking to kind of do that. Cause by not living there, I feel like when I am there, I get so much done because I know, I only have 5 days or whatever. So yeah, it's been good. I always like getting into town there.
Are you doing Americana Fest this year?
I would love to. I'm trying to. I just just applied to get in. So.
They just opened I guess, yeah, you wouldn't know yet.
Yeah. They just opened the applications and everything. So we'll see. I would like to. I've actually never been. So I really hope to be there this year.
Yeah, it's great. Last year was, a little lackluster just because of COVID, but hopefully this year will be a lot better.
Yeah.
It was still good. It was really good last year, but, hopefully it'll feel a little bit more normal.
Yeah, I think so too. I think things are heading that way, or at least I like to believe they are. So
yeah, knock on wood.
Right.
that finally, hopefully it'll, because I have a 1-year-old daughter, so I've just kind of stayed away from gigs, just because I didn't want to give her COVID, but I just got COVID. So
right. Are you over it now then?
Yeah. It was like, I guess 3 or 4 weeks ago. So,
okay. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Even being out on this run, there was a lot of, busy shows. So, coming back, I was just like, well, I just prepare for the worst in case, but so far, so good. So we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, good for you. Yeah. It definitely feels good to be out, out again playing. So I think things are getting better. I don't know. I'm at least going to keep saying it. So,
yeah.
Do
you have like a tour run scheduled for the album release?
I have a couple things planned, but, yeah, a lot up in the air. So a lot of pending things. So we'll see, but I'm doing a big release show, out in Chicago on the 15th, the day the record comes out. In a couple weeks, I'm heading out. I'm doing a couple dates with Jeremy Pinnell, who's a friend of mine. And then, a couple cool things planned for after the release, but, a lot of still pending stuff. So we'll see how everything pans out.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough to get it all set up and worked out. Where are you playing at in Chicago?
So I'm doing the record release at Carol's Pub. Have you heard of Carol's before?
I haven't. No.
It's cool. It's really cool. It's kind of like probably the only honky tonk or country bar in Chicago.
What about
yeah,
the
it's
empty
cool.
glass?
What's that?
Is it the empty glass or the broken glass or something like
Oh,
that?
empty bottle.
Empty bottle. There you go.
Empty Bottle does do so. They do the country every Friday.
Uh-huh.
That's a cool bar. I used to live right by there. I did my first record release there for my first record. I used to be at the Empty Bottle all the time, almost every Friday. But
so you must know Dan, right? Whitaker.
Oh yeah, I know Dan well. Absolutely.
Awesome. He's been on the podcast as well.
Oh, cool. Awesome. Great. Yeah. Dan's a bud. I've played around with him a bunch. Yeah, he's great. So yeah, Empty Bottle's cool. There's a bunch of good places in Chicago. But kind of just landed on Carol's. The guy who runs that is a supporter of mine as well, which is always great. So yeah, we're looking to have a good time. I think it's gonna be a fun one. I haven't really played much around Chicago in the last couple of years either. So hopefully we'll have a good kind of hometown crowd and everything.
So will it be like a Chicago band for the hometown gig?
Yeah. I have my buddy Mikey G playing before me. He's kind of on the north side, but he's a buddy. He's in a great band. And then the Family Gold is going to open up, and they're kind of a little bit more old time honky tonk kind of crowd. So should be a nice progression. Probably get some dancers out and leading up to my set. So I'm looking forward to it for sure. That's
awesome. And are you doing like vinyl? Is there going to be like some sort of pre-order available?
Yeah. So you can pre-order as of now. Pre-orders have been going really well. So you can pre-order on the website, store, Instagram, any of that kind of stuff. You can pre-order the vinyl. I actually just got all the vinyl in last week. So it's kind of cool to actually finally physically see them. And you can pre-order CD too if you want. But yeah, you can do that anywhere online. Did
you master separately for vinyl versus like CD and streaming?
Yeah, I had the same guy do it. I actually use a Nashville guy, John Baldwin. I don't know if you know him.
I mean, I know the name. I see in the credits he's done the Stones and Merle Haggard. So
he's done.
Sure, he's amazing.
He's done a bunch of he's done a bunch of like reissue stuff, and then a bunch of other good bands as well. He's a really good guy. So he does kind of, it's like a separate thing for the vinyl, which is cool to deal with. And just to hear it on vinyl, I mean, it's just such a different experience,
Yeah. I hope that I can get mine on vinyl. We'll see how all that goes, but yeah, I mastered it myself. So I would probably have to go with someone else to get it mastered for vinyl.
I wonder how different that process is. I don't know.
I mean, I guess I could take some classes or something, but
yeah,
I mean,
it's a whole different world.
Different. I know you just roll off the bass at like the 100K frequency or 100.
Right.
Yeah. I'm really not sure though. I mean, I've heard different things. So you definitely, cause the needle can jump off with too much bass, and you can't, the loudness wars thing, you can't really do that. You can't get it to like peaking like you can.
Right. Actually, I didn't even realize that. Mastering in general is like such a different world to me. I know almost nothing about it.
I took a bunch of classes during the pandemic. I just had some money, took some online classes because I wanted to learn how to master. And I was like, this is like, it's not any different than mixing. It's just different techniques. So it's like, this isn't that hard. It's just if you don't know, you don't know. But yeah, it's like, it seems so mystical until you've done it. And then you're like, oh, this isn't that hard. It's hard to do, or it's difficult to be good at it, but it's not that difficult to learn how to do.
Yeah, you're right though. It is sort of mystical if you don't know. Like to me, it's like a whole different world. And then I would just say, oh, I don't know anything about it. So
yeah, you're like, they did it and it sounds amazing, but what did they do?
Right. I'd almost rather not know. I'm like, you know what? I'll leave it up to you and other folks like that.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah. It's honestly kind of, being someone who's not one of the good ones, like John Baldwin, it is a little bit of a bitch because you got to kind of finesse some stuff to get it. and like, this might be nerdy talk. I don't even know if any of the listeners will care to hear, but the LUFs have to be under a certain number as well, which, because like Spotify does it at -14, but then some of the other ones do it at like -16 or whatever. And if you don't master it at the correct level, like Spotify will squash your music and it won't be loud at all.
Oh, wow.
So you got to do mystical. All that. Yeah. So yeah, but anyway, sorry, nerdy mastering tangent. What are some, can you like give us the links to your website? You mentioned them, but you didn't actually say what they were.
Yeah. David Quinn Music for Instagram. I think also Facebook. I think Twitter's David Quinn Band, I believe. David Quinn on Spotify. My website is davidquinnmusic.net. So if you look up David Quinn Music, I'm usually the one who comes up. There's one other David Quinn floating around out there, but he's very obviously not me. I think he does like house music or something, and I don't even know if he still makes music. So once in a while that shows up, but I think people will figure out it's not me. So I've had a couple extra people who thought like, "Oh, did you used to make house music?" I'm like, "No, that's not me. Nothing against it. Just it's not my world." So
yeah, I used to be in a folk band called The Onlys, and then there's another folk band up in the like Pacific Northwest that does like, that are called The Onlys, that did folk. So it got really confusing because people would like listen when Spotify first started and stuff. They would like group it together, and you couldn't separate it at the time. And so people would be listening to their record and be like, "Oh, I really love that song." And be like, "I don't have a song called that. What are you talking about?"
Right. Yeah, that's tough if it's the same genre.
Yeah. But that has since been abandoned. So I think they probably took over the whole channel.
Sure.
Well, thanks so much for coming on, man. I really appreciate it. New record's great. Date. Shoot.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate you having me on. April 15th, it'll be out.
April 15th. I was trying to find it.
It'll be out everywhere. I have one more single coming out, and then April 15th, you can get it anywhere. It's going to be in record stores, but you can pre-order now. So yeah, I appreciate you having me on as well. It's good chatting with you.
Thanks, man. Well, hopefully we'll see you here in Nashville soon.
Yes, looking forward to it.
All right, that's it for this episode of Americana Station Podcast. Make sure you stream David Quinn's new record on your favorite platform. Buy his record at the record store. That helps him out a lot. And go see him live. Coming up on the station, we've got Meg Farrell. We've got the Kentucky Gentleman. Peter Donovan is coming up. And there's more down the pipeline. Make sure that you visit our Patreon, patreon.com/Americana Station. Follow us, rate us, review us, tell all your friends, and don't tell your enemies. And we'll see you next time. Thanks so much. I'm Will Payne Harrison.
Just having some fun and getting by along the way. Amazing living free, just to do what I please, and it's a country fresh every day. Every day.